about if you want to retire sooner than later, you got to know your destination. You got to know your financial address. I talk about in chapter 1 of my book, what's my financial address? Let's talk about your GPS. How many guys was invited here this morning, and what did you ask for, or what did you receive to get here? The address, and you plugged it in where? Google Maps. In other words, you knew your destination from your home, and you knew exactly how to get here. Did they give you one option or 3 different options? 3 different options. One option is what? Take a local route, the toll road, or the normal public highway, right? So which gets you to your destination the fastest? The toll road. In other words, if you're willing to pay the price, you can get to where you want to go, from where you're starting to where you want to go faster. In life, if you're willing to pay the price, you can get to where you want to go faster.
What's crackin' everybody? Mighty smart guy Matt Sapaula here, hailing to you from Dallas, Texas. Yes, I'm still recovering from pneumonia, but still, the show must go on. Joining me in the studio today is my co-host here, Milton Alvarez. And we got a special treat for you today. Very interesting show here. We have some gentlemen here from Chicago. Now, many of you that know me here in Dallas, Milton and I are originally from Chicago, or shall we say Chicagoland? Chicagoland. Because everybody from Chicago gets upset if you're not claiming it properly. Berwyn, Cicero, Stickney area.
Bellwood area.
Bellwood area, Maywood area, Proviso area. And if you've ever wondered what it takes to become a millionaire in the medical field, we're going to unpack that today. Is it still a career path? If money is the ultimate destination, can you still make it in the medical field? As a physician, as a doctor, is it worth it going through medical school? How about you raising money for your company? How many guys would love to raise $1 million, $10 million, $50 million, $100 million to raise capital for your enterprise? We're going to have a gentleman here to discuss the details of raising money for your endeavor. Also going to be discussing, is it even worth it to become a billionaire? Should billionaires even exist? We're going to talk about recruiting today, building your millionaire team. So with that being said, Milton, could you give us the honor of introducing our guest in studio
today, baby? 100%, man. I'm actually pretty excited to introduce these next 2 gentlemen. Let me start with Peter Quintus. I actually met Peter through George, and right off the bat, when him and I jumped on a call, man, it was I knew something great was going to come out of it. But Peter is the founder of Soma Global, is a pioneering software company that provides modern solutions for over 100 law enforcement and public safety agencies. At Soma, he leads product development and business strategy, focusing on growth and innovation. His expertise in enterprise software has been integral. I can't even pronounce this right now. Sorry, man. I'm that excited to introduce you. Integral in launching and scaling high growth technology solutions. And the second gentleman, this guy we actually met in 2019, Matt, whenever you would come into the gym in Lombard. Yeah. He'd be the big, tall Greek guy squatting next to us. George Pitts. He's a board-certified internal medicine physician with over 20 years of clinical experience. He owns and operates an urgent care clinic in the Chicago area and is in the medical director of the occupational health program. He provides expert consultation for health and wellness for corporate clients and is an executive health physician for major hospital systems. And on the weekends, he runs his OnlyFans page.
OnlyFans. Sweet feet. Sweet feet like that. If you never knew you had sweet feet, you should check out OnlyFans. There is an audience for it. There's a market for it.
But always. Totally kidding on the OnlyFans page, guys, to the viewers. But welcome to the show, guys. Welcome, Peter. And
welcome to Dallas, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Looking to build a business, looking to build a career, build relationships. It's through similar interests. And so both of you gentlemen actually knew each other from growing up.
Yeah.
Who can share that story?
Yeah.
Since kindergarten.
Grew up in the same. We're both Greek. Grew up in the same community. Went to the same schools all the way through high school.
Yeah. So Peter, your last name is Quintus. Every time I think about the word Quintus, the name Quintus, I think about Gladiator, right? Yeah. His right-hand man. You know.
It's actually not the most Greek origin of last names, but yeah, I'm 100% Greek.
So my big fat My Big Fat Greek Wedding is on his second iteration or third iteration
third,
now? Third iteration.
Just did their third. Yeah.
So does that movie resonate with your family?
Yeah, a bit.
Okay.
It's most of my Greek friends might take offense to some of the things that they have in there, but there are some things that are directionally right in there.
when I'm every ethnic background, whether you're Filipino, Mexican, black, white, every ethnic demographic has its own funny stereotypes. Yep. And I think that's what makes America cool. It's nothing that everybody should take, in my opinion, don't take offense to.
There's a lot of similarities too, like between these ethnicities and the way their families are oriented.
Yes. So my go-to food, I'll tell you this, my go-to food when I want to eat healthy is Mediterranean food.
100%.
Absolutely.
When Sheena and I went to a Greek Mediterranean cruise, 10 days, 11 days, long time. But we felt like it was an appetizer Greece. We went to Santorini, went to Olympus, Split, Croatia. Anyway, all these different islands. And I just noticed the food there in Greece was different.
It's clean.
Is that what I was tasting?
Yeah. Clean food.
Clean food.
Yeah. You can eat a lot of it and not feel it like the way you would here. Yeah.
That's crazy. George, you're the doctor between the two of you guys.
Correct.
Would you attest to that? Clean Greek food in Greece compared to America?
Absolutely. Speaking of that, the blue zones that people talk about, certain areas of the world where people tend to live super long into their hundreds.
Yeah.
And there are people who investigate it. There's movies about it. And they're always trying to figure out what it is about certain places why are people living longer?
Yeah.
And there's a Greek island called Ikaria where people are living super.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking into their hundreds.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Clean food.
Clean food,
no stress.
olive oil, lack of stress. They all take naps during the day. It's part of their culture.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're always in like a non-stressful environment. They're not rushing to get anywhere. They're not fighting traffic. They're just, and the daily nap, I think all those factors combined is the reason that you see a lot of like people living super long in the Mediterranean. It's not just Greece, Italy. The clean food, non-processed food, homegrown food plays a big role. People will never understand.
In the Spanish culture, it's called siestas.
Siestas, something that I've never really done much. So you advocate for naps during the day?
I advocate, but it's just not a reality in today's society.
Yeah.
Not practical.
It's not practical.
In Greece, because I used to live there when I was much younger, a lot of places, and Pete will attest to it if you've been there, they close from 2 to 5. Like, so businesses will open 7, 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
They'll close from 2 to 5 and reopen from 5 to 9.
Yeah.
As a means for people to go home and eat.
Yeah.
Break bread, because the lunch is the biggest meal of the day, and then they would rejuvenate.
It's opposite of the American culture. It's chop, 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 chop,
Exactly.
on demand right now.
Hustle
Today,
and bustle.
serve.
But Athens is the same way. Athens is a big metropolitan city like New York, London, and all that. They don't do that there.
Yeah.
But places like with the blue zones where people are living longer, these islands, they still advocate by that.
Wow.
All the stores, the banks, everything, 2 to 5, they take their naps.
Interesting. By the way, if you're watching this, are you a napper? Please put in the comment section. I love naps, or I don't love naps. Please put in the comment section. We'd love to know what our audience likes to do. Peter, we're talking about, our audience is a bunch of people who are looking to start their own business. Again, business started, et cetera, et cetera. Can you take us through a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. Well, it really started in college.
Where'd you go?
I went to University of Illinois Chicago engineering program, and
Circle Campus.
Yeah.
UIC.
Right.
University of Indians and Chinese.
So
I can say it. I'm the token Asian guy in the show.
During my senior year of college, I was like about halfway through. I went through a job fair, and that was at the peak of like the big 3 consulting firms. Everyone's there in press suits, pressed resumes, and I was walking through to get to the card game at the cafeteria. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, this isn't the life I want. And I ran into one guy there, and he had a startup at just a single table with a stack of cards. And he's like, hey, do you want a part-time job? Wow. And I'm like, cool. And he had a small little startup, and it's the impact that I had at that startup just set the tone for my career. When you're in a small startup world like that, you can make as much as you want to make of it. And I just get like addicted to that.
Yeah. It's a different wiring.
Yeah, it is.
So you're different. Your buddy, even though you guys grew up together, you're wired different. You became a doctor. So you went through school, went through education. You were just telling me about the timeline it takes to become a doctor. By the way, can you tell everybody the timeline it takes to become a doctor real quick?
Yes, so you have to go for your 4 years of undergrad, just like you would for business or whatever.
Like a pre-med or something like that, yeah?
Yes. They used to call it pre-med. Usually people major in biology, biochemistry, but you can actually major in anything. So you go through those 4 years, then you take an MCAT, and then you go into med school for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then after med school for 4 years, you have a minimum of 3 years residency. So if you want to be just a psychologist, a primary care doctor, a pediatrician, it's typically 3 years, no specialty.
Yeah.
If you want to specialize, then there's additional steps. For example, if you want to be a cardiologist, it's 3 years after that. So that's 6 years post-med school.
Right.
If you want to be a surgeon, 6. Post-med school. If you want to be a surgeon, now surgical residency is 5 years to be a general surgeon. Then if you want to be like a neurosurgeon, orthopedic, there's a couple years tacked on after that. So it's a lot of dedication, a lot of study time.
How old are you then by the time you become a full-fledged doctor?
If you don't take any time off and you get in right away, you're typically close to 30. And that's no time off.
How much
now,
is-
most people don't take time off.
Yeah.
Most people do take time off because you don't get in right away. Sometimes you work for a couple of years after college in the medical field, get some experience, and then apply.
Yeah.
You know, so most people finish in their mid-30s because, most people, after college, you're not motivated to go straight into med school. Some people want to work a little. They want to be physician assistants, pharmacists. They want to work in a hospital, or a lot of career change. A lot of people go into business. They're like, you know what? I'm going to go take my MCATs. I'm going to go back into medicine. So typically, again, if you go straight through, before you start making any sort of money, you're about 30. And you're in debt. And you're in debt.
What does the debt look like?
It's usually on the average close to 200,000.
Jeez.
And that's on the average. There's people which is even higher when you factor in the college, the med school, and then to make it matters worse, you do get paid after you are a doctor in residency, but you're getting paid typically around 40 to 45,000.
Enough to pay the student loan debt.
Barely enough to live.
Yeah.
Let alone start chipping away at that.
Yeah.
So then after that, then if you go into fellowship, like I mentioned, you make a little more, but and then typical jobs out of med school, out of residency, typical jobs like for a primary care physician, the average is about 200,000. When I finished, it was about 150,000.
Wow.
And after all that. So I have a lot of friends that have been practicing 10, 15 years. They're still chipping away at their student loans. And they're just employed physicians and stuff like that. So you have to love medicine. You have to love medicine to really, put yourself through that. And there's nothing wrong with it, but you have to have a strong love for medicine. If you're going into it for the money, I strongly don't suggest it. The money's good. You're always stable. You're inflation proof. You're always going to have a job as a doctor.
Sure.
No matter what happens out there, doctors will be needed.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to just, get to the next level, if you want the yachts and all that kind of stuff,
Different pathway to get there.
Figure out a different way to do it.
Wow. Pete, you look like you wouldn't want to jump in there.
Yeah, you know what? A little relevant side story. My freshman year of college, one of my first electives was psychology, and I was immediately obsessed with like brain health stuff. And I looked to change my major, and my guidance counselor at the college laid all that out to me. I'm like, nope.
The timeline.
I'll stick to programming.
Yeah.
Software.
Yeah, software. Yeah.
So you guys are. Did you also go to UIC?
No, I went to Loyola.
Okay, still in
But
Chicago
we
though.
stayed close. We stayed close.
both city
We all
colleges,
met
yeah.
up in Greektown a lot because,
Of course, on Halstead.
yes,
Yeah.
So because that's where everyone would hang out. So
Yeah.
from Loyola, we would go there. We saw the UIC people and
Yeah.
the card games and all that stuff.
My go-to there in Greektown is Red Snapper, or the Lamb Shank.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh gosh.
I still get it. And I'm Greek, and that's like so. I can imagine a non-Greek loving it.
Exactly. You walk right in there, and they got the fish just laid out there on ice. They got the meat laid out there. One of the best spots. Greektown. If you're ever in Chicago, got to visit Greektown. I'm just curious. You're friends, right? Did you guys do any? Because I remember I was doing this when I was in my 20s. Did you guys do any like posturing or like side-eyeing each other, like who's taking off in their career, who's making more money, car, status, downtown, condo? I don't know. That happens to friends.
I don't think I did, but
Well, what happens during anybody who's going through medicine is when you're studying, in med school, most people are out of college already. So when you're studying, still paying for med school, everyone else, even if they're making 40 grand, 50 grand, like they're making money.
They're living a life.
And they're not studying. So for me, it was very humbling because most Greeks tend to go to Greece every summer. That's like the thing that everyone would do. They would go to Greece. You saw how awesome it is. How would you not want to go there every summer?
Oh my gosh.
With me, I had studied.
I mean, I came back 9 months later with a souvenir. We're about to name it. We're about to name him Zeus.
It's in the air there. It's in the air. So could you imagine, early 20s guy wanting to go there partying with,
that's crazy.
Spanish girls, and because it's a destination for all of Europeans. Think about in England. If you live in England, Netherlands, Northern Ireland,
Italian,
they all want to come down there. They all want to come down to Greece for vacation. If you were there during the summer, it was all Greece.
It was. Yeah.
So here's me now. Not just with Peter, most of my friends, they're all vacationing. They're all having a good time. They're buying cars, and I'm just studying. It's very humbling. So you really have to dig deep and look at the big picture. But there's a lot of times, and I've spoken to all my fellow colleagues, we would say to each other, man, is this worth it? Picture you're 22, 23 years old. You want to go out and have fun.
You're in deep though already.
You're in deep. You're in deep. And you're just we're just going to fight through it. But then the real humbling experience is you fight through it and you think wow, I reached it. You got the MD. Now you got residency. You finish residency. You're like, oh man, I could. Now I got to work to, So there's the light at the end of the tunnel comes really late. So.
Did you want to jump here, Milton? These are your friends. I've just been.
No. This is awesome. It's making it a hell of a lot easier. But I know both Peter and George, you guys have at least one or two topics that you want to touch on that's going to add massive value to the viewers who are watching right now. Pete, if you want to maybe tell us two of the topics that you're speaking about, then George, then I want to be able to dive into my first question for Peter.
Sure. A couple of things that we're going to talk about today is how to build high growth teams and high performing teams, especially in startups. And then the related topics of just the health and wellness of the employees and a founder during that startup journey. Because it's tough. You have to have grit.
I noticed on your IG, Peter, you used to have brown hair. You just aged just wonderfully.
You know what? My dad, my dad at 35 was completely white, so I think I'm doing a little bit better than him.
Silver hair is a sign of wisdom.
Yes, I think so.
And plus, you have how many girls you have?
I have 2 girls, 2 boys.
Yeah, it's the girls that do it to you. I got twin girls too as well. As soon as I get just started coming out, but nonetheless, okay. Let's talk about building teams because you're building a company. You got this idea. You're fired up. You're excited. Now you got to execute on, but you're just by yourself. So talk to us about that.
So the way that I look at the company, and especially startups, the people and the culture of your company mean everything. And I always made that a focus of the startup journey. And it's, you bring people in that are, and you want to make it a very mission-driven culture, because that you'll get higher performing employees out of people that sign up for a mission. Now, I'm lucky with Soma, and just to give everyone a brief summary of what we do software for law enforcement and first responders. So it's everything from the 911 call all the way through documenting the incident, all the way through booking them through jail. So the mission criticality of what we do, if our software goes down, people can die. So it's like, besides building a startup, it's stressful. But people that are attracted to working at Soma, it's sort of self-selecting, and they are mission driven if they see the mission of Soma and are attracted to that
There's
company.
a mission. There's a purpose behind it.
Yeah, there is a purpose behind it. So about 10 years, I remember reading an article and adopting that as how you manage your teams and how you build your culture around this mission-driven attitude. And it starts with the people and bringing the right people on that believe in the mission. And then I also I always look at the employer-employee relationship as bi-directional. You're interviewing people, and you want them to accomplish something for your company, and we form that in the mission. But I always want to make sure that I understand what they want out of it. It was part of the interview process. what do you want out of your experience with Soma? So, because I want to make sure that I'm developing them as an employee and as a member of the team, because that creates a better relationship. It creates a better alliance, what they say, in attacking your mission. And that's a big piece of it. But then the other two pieces of it are giving them the right tools and support.
Yep.
And then the third piece of that is not necessarily from a leader standpoint, but from a leader and from a team member standpoint. I always like to be in there in the trenches with the people that I'm working with.
Yeah.
It creates a camaraderie. It creates a culture that you're working together, striving towards that.
You're not stuck in your
mission and goal.
corner office or your ivory tower.
Even to this day, I mean, Soma's just finished its 7th year in business, and I look forward to the days that I can jump into the front lines and help solve a problem or deliver code myself too. I still write software as much as I can on a weekly basis.
Wow.
So, but that's important because I want to understand the problems that everyone's having at the frontline level, to be on side by side with them, solving them with them. I think overall that helps the team grow quite a bit.
Yeah, do you have sales guys at Soma?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is your customer then business to municipalities?
Yeah, law enforcement. Particularly. Yeah, law enforcement agencies.
Local and
state and local.
State and local. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. So when can you talk to us about getting your first couple deals? So you're at this program, you got the software, now I got to go sell it.
Yeah. So the first couple of deals actually are involved in launching the company.
Yeah.
So my prior company, I'm always trying to keep my hands dirty with technology, and the prior company we did retail analytics in store.
Yeah.
So it had these little devices that tracked shopping behaviors in store. And one of the biggest problems and challenges technically with that was managing the tens of thousands of devices we had out in the field, and just the little cloud devices that you put in the store. And Amazon had some technology that they had released in managing cloud devices. I wanted to play with it, so I asked my friends, and I had been exposed to this industry about a dozen years prior, and still kept quite connected. And my now co-founder, Nick Stolman, he's like, you need to do gunshot detection. So I built a little device that you plug into a wall, like in a school, for example, detects gunshots, and then I built a little application.
In a school?
To respond to gunshots.
Holy moly!
But when I started taking that prototype and showing it around. And at that point in time, a lot of the sheriff's offices were taking responsibility of school security. So I was showing it to law enforcement, and I remember it being at a county that's right next door to my county in Florida, where I live now. And I said, look at this. Look at the response software. Oh, this is great, but I want you to integrate it to my dispatch software in my 911 center. And I had been out of that business for about a dozen years now. I go, and it was archaic still.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait. I want to show you something else in 30 days. And I really quickly built a prototype that was cloud-based, modern dispatch software, and then brought it back to this same agency, who's now a customer today, and I spend most of my time with them.
How long was that sales cycle like?
That particular sales cycle was 4 years.
Holy moly! Yeah.
But that's because they were a large agency, saw the promise in what we were doing, said, I told them, like, if you like this, don't buy any other software, help me build this out.
Got it.
And I spent a whole year every week driving over there, showing them a little bit new, making some tweaks, going back and forth. And I had 4 initial customers just like that didn't pay me any money. They paid me in time. Mm-hmm. So I went there and I built out and perfected the software. And they were all big agencies. Yeah. And along the way, 8 months in, it was actually on my birthday in the first year of business, we closed our first deal, a small agency in Virginia.
I can imagine it's a big check.
Well, not the first couple of deals. Yeah. The first couple of deals are smaller checks.
Okay.
Because they're smaller agencies, a couple of dozen sworn.
Wow.
But I had enough features that that it would allow them to run their operations. So it started from there, and slowly we started getting bigger and bigger agencies, and now we're a bit over 100 agencies under contract.
That's great. How did you eat? How did you pay the bills? How did you keep the lights on? How do you keep the servers up in the cloud running and paying the bills while you're waiting for a big check or customer?
So the nice thing about me in this position is I was able to write the software. A lot of people with ideas in tech companies, they either have to partner with somebody or hire somebody and spend money. I didn't need a lot of upfront investment to get this started.
You were the product. It's in here.
Yeah, I just had to dump it out.
But how did you pay the bills though? How did you?
Initially I had my co-founder Nick, and I had another founder that contributed money to the project.
Interesting. Good. So that's how you create a partnership. So good. That's and it's good to know that you put it. That basically everybody. This is called sweat equity. Yeah. This is bootstrapping.
Yep.
I'm gonna park this real quick. I want to go back to you, George. So you've drifted from being a doctor and now fully running your own urgent care clinic in Chicago.
Yeah, and I'm still a doctor. I still work there. I'm still an MD practicing every day.
Interesting. And you have employees though, so
yeah, we have about close to 40 employees.
Yeah,
we have 38 employees, and we have a different model that we are doing mainly occupational health. So we're the physicians for companies, corporations, schools.
Yeah.
So by that, for example, trucking companies, they'll send us their employees for pre-employment drug screens, pre-employment physicals. So it's direct. They pay us directly.
Got it.
We do on-the-job injuries. They get hurt at work. We do their X-rays. We
got it.
We
they
get
just
them
have
to
employees go to your clinics.
The company. So and if they're sick and out of work, we're the ones who clear them to go back to work.
Yeah.
During COVID, we did all their COVID testing. We do DOT physicals. Everybody you see driving a truck needs to be certified to drive a truck, and we're all certified physicians to do DOT physicals. So we're like a little mini private ER that's open 65 hours a week. That the majority of our business is directly from companies. We do physical therapy. So we built a business, from using our medical knowledge to be able to provide a service, but we parlayed it into a business.
So same question to you that I asked Peter. So you are a doctor. So how did you start the side hustle? And what did you start? What did you identify?
That's a very good question. So in 2005, when I finished residency, I worked for a big hospital system, and I was their immediate care physician. And 2 or 3 years in, I started, being the director of their health program, and I sat in on these hospital meetings, seeing how much money us physicians were bringing the hospital. So they were paying us this much, but they were making 10x of the doctor billed portion. Now I understand they have a lot of bills and stuff like that, but so I had a partner that was also working there, and so 3 years out of residency, we decided let's open up our own occupational health urgent care clinic, and we started with 2-3 employees, and then speaking of sales, I would go out and get these companies. We started off with a small staffing company. If you know what a staffing company is, it's like an agency that gets workers and gives them to big corporations. So I got a staffing company. Then I went to the school, and the local school, we would do the physicals for all their teachers, their bus drivers. So we got that. We would do their flu shots every year. And then I just parlayed to bigger accounts like Amazon and stuff like that. Not saying I have all of Amazon, but just the local ones.
So everybody watching this, whether you're software or medical, and you're starting a business, the same universal principle applies. Both these gentlemen were willing to roll up their sleeves, get in the trenches, get dirty. As much as they are talking about their successes and their yeses, I can imagine there's also a lot of no's and rejection.
Well, I want to mention one thing, Matt, based on that. I want to mention, when I would go and I would tell some of my colleagues who were still employed physicians, and I told them, hey, I just went to Kraft Foods and I did a tour of their plant. And I was like, you're a doctor? and you went to Kraft Foods, like walking around like
As if that was below you.
yeah, it's like you're the physician. You should you can't look at it that way. You know, that's an account that I'm trying to get. Now we did have salespeople and we did, but no one is ever going to market your business. I don't care what business it is, like you will.
Come on.
You know,
Absolutely.
You're the number one sales chief of your organization.
Every founder has to be a good salesman.
and every salesperson I ever met, a lot of them are good, but you know, they're always going to slack when they can.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to give 100% like you're going to give 100%. There's good ones, but they just never will.
There's a thing though about founders that come off of, like you say, we're saying good salesmen, they have to be good salesmen, but typically it's their passion that just comes forward.
Yeah.
And they're just speaking from their heart and from their passion of what they're doing. That resonates with who you're talking.
For sure.
And going to these companies too, they're like, oh, you know, there's other clinics like Concentra that, but the doctor actually came here. They're like, wow, he took time to come here. We're going to sign up with this, you know, this little guy as opposed to the big hospital systems that they were using before.
Because they feel the personal attention and care.
That personal touch. You give them your cell number. So these HR generalists or these GMs or safety directors, like, you know, let's use his clinic. You know, he came here. He saw our operation. He relates to our employees. He's the kind of guy we want taking care of our people.
For sure. Jordan, I have a video I want to queue up. This is Steve Jobs. He's talking about this is the most important job at Apple as a founder, as a chief sales officer of your organization. It's interesting what he says here about what you both are talking about right now. Let's take a look at this clip.
The greatest people are self-managing. They don't need to be managed. Once they know what to do, they'll go figure out how to do it. And they don't need to be managed at all. What they need is a common vision. And that's what leadership is. What leadership is having a vision, being able to articulate that so the people around you can understand it, and getting a consensus on a common vision. We wanted people that were insanely great at what they did. But we're not necessarily those seasoned professionals. But a group of 10 great people, it becomes self-policing as to who they let into that group. So I consider the most important job of someone like myself is recruiting.
Guys, that was 40 years ago. It's 40 years ago. And today, Apple's what? Arguably a couple $1 trillion company. And so if it works for a guy like that to build a company, which is an industry that he basically created, the personal computing, the iPhone industry, the iPod, remember those? But when you look at recruiting, because you're just not selling your product or service, but you're also selling, you were talking about earlier, about what people are working together with you, what they can get out of Soma.
The mission.
Yeah. What's your guys' reaction to Steve Jobs?
I talked about it earlier. I didn't know you were playing that clip, and I've never seen that clip before either. And I'm obviously a fan of Steve Jobs, and
sure, software guy.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
And I've never seen that before, and I agree with it 100%. And as a leader, as an owner of a company or a founder, you want your employees or the people working for you to know that inside you have to feel like you're the hardest worker. Yeah. You know, I've noticed a lot of people, you know, Greeks in restaurant businesses, when they have the one restaurant they're doing good, they see the owner there, he's there. Yeah. When they get 3, 4 and the owner's not there and they think that the owner's not working, he's vacationing, he's doing this, then they don't have the motivation. So I feel as the founder, as the owner, as the leader of the group, you have to yourself be the hardest worker in the room. You have to be the one they know that, hey, he's working hard. I want to emulate that. Yep. Employees do not want to be, you know, in the back of their mind, they don't want to think like, well, I'm working harder than the owner. Yeah. You know, you always got to be the hardest worker.
And he's getting rich off my back.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of what happened at the hospital, right?
That's right.
You know, we were working, you know, our butts off, raising 10x money of what we were billing. Yeah. They were making the money and they were golfing. Sure. While we're in the trenches seeing patients. So we're like, you know, let's do it for ourselves. Yeah.
So I want to talk about raising capital and funding and financing your operation. So talk to us about what was like, what did you need to do to get your company ready to start taking out? You went through a Series A?
Yeah, I did. Okay. I did. But when I started Soma, I started it with the goal of not having to go out and raise professional money.
That's right.
And I think if you set goals like that, either in raising money or particular exits, your aim, from a founder's vision and what your mission is, your aim might not be aligned right, because raising money or having a particular valuation or exit might drive you towards different decisions than providing value in the space, in the people that you're serving, and the customers that you're serving.
Now you're pleasing an investor.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you focus on providing value to the customer, and you build good products and services, your company's going to be valuable. And you will attract investors. You will attract an exit. And I always thought of it in that lens. Like, listen, I just want to do good work, and everything else will be a side effect of that.
Yeah. When you were working part-time from that job fair story, what was the biggest lesson you learned working for a startup? So therefore, eventually you could be a startup.
Yeah, that you could have huge impact. That year, while I was still in school, the product that I built for the company won Best in Show at the trade show that I attended while I was still in college.
Right.
And if I would have went and worked for a consulting firm, I wouldn't have had hands-on experience for years like I did there.
Yep.
And it's just you can take control over your own destiny, and it's magnified in a startup. It's even more magnified when you're the founder of a startup.
Yeah. It's when I started pitching our company for an exit, we did an exit in June of 22, excuse me, June of 22. And it was as a sales guy, recruiting my team, as a sales guy selling our financial concepts of life insurance and retirement planning. It was a different sell for me when I was selling investors or potential buyer. They didn't really care so much about my vision, my passion, all that stuff. All they cared about was EBITDA. All they cared about was the spreadsheet, right? And it just seemed so dry to me, that process. And what was your experience?
It's interesting because like my Series A investor, he came from he served in government. Mm-hmm. He was a local guy, very value driven in the way he ran his firm, which was how we ran ours, and it. Aligning what your vision is with the money that's bringing in, because they want to make their LPs money. They want to return capital, and I get that. That's the business that they're in. But also, we're in a business of adding value and making officers come home safely at night. And those are different goals. Yeah. But you need to figure out a way to align them the best that you can.
Yeah, it's because a couple of guys, when we're going through the exit, people are like, do you want to partner with somebody or do you want to go public? Yeah. And I said, you know what? One of our competitors is public. And here's the downside of them being public. I know all their numbers. I know everything about it. Matter of fact, I bought their stock. Just to be part of the conference calls. Just to be part of the quarterly reports. Interesting. Right? I bought my competitor's stock just to be included and I get all the reports. So now we're building a company, obviously, to compete in, but I know exactly what they're reporting. And if the downside of being public is you got to do that. And so that's why we opted not to go public and just look for a big partner to be absorbed in, which is almost our equivalent of going public. Because for our new guys coming in, I don't want to have the unfair advantage of them not having to share the numbers week in, week out, especially if I have part-time sales force or full-time sales force. It's just unfair to a lot of these guys. It's our experience with it. I want to talk about you raising capital for starting your business.
Yeah,
was it self-financed? Yeah,
self-financed. We both worked. Me and my partner. We still kept our jobs at the hospital for 3 years, working full time as employed physicians while we got it. So we took out a small loan. And we had paid it off within a year.
That's some side gig, huh?
Well, you're making six figures working your full-time job, so it's we knew how to run it because we saw how they did it. Yeah. But I just want to echo a little bit about what you both said, as far as the same thing happens in medicine, where you get these venture capital groups. People think medicine's any different. It's all the same. We're all the same. They look at EBITDA. They look at all that stuff because we've been approached by some venture capital, some other big health systems to buy us out, and all they care about is EBITDA times a certain multiple or the year gross, whatever formulas and all that.
Right.
You're proud of what you've accomplished. You see the difference you've made in people's lives, the value. All they care about is the number.
Yeah, the year over
You
year.
got lucky that you found somebody that can share that. But at the end of the day, they care about the numbers.
Yeah.
You know, if I could sit there until I'm blue in the face, we impacted this life. We made this company more efficient because we were there. What does the number say?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we just want to care about the numbers, and that's how it is.
Yeah.
These venture capital groups. But the thing is, in medicine, people think, oh, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
They're going to look at our numbers the exact same way. It all comes down to EBITDA, profit margins, you know, gross sales.
I asked you this before we went live. If I want to be a millionaire today as a medical professional, how do I do it?
Unless you get a super highly competitive fellowship, like a specialty, which are very hard to get. The 1% of the 1% of
In the
the
medical
smartest
field.
people. For example, a neurosurgeon, which is brain and spine surgery, a super like high-end ophthalmologist. You're going to have to do your own business, and you're going to have to scale it like on your own business.
So still the entrepreneurial route, even within the medical field. to become a
Yes,
millionaire.
unless you have, you get lucky enough to get accepted into the super high paying specialties, dermatology, ophthalmology, and neurosurgery, which is
Gotcha.
less than 5% of all the medical jobs. Most of the medical jobs are primary care physicians, pediatricians, OB-GYN, and all that. So if you're looking for that, you're going to have to think outside the box and start your own practice, start your own business, offer services that are not that controls medicine today.
Yeah. So if you're charging $20,000 a year to be the personal doctor to 50 patients,
That a lot of people do that.
That's it.
You know, the Peter Attias of the world,
Yeah.
and some of the other big doctors. That's what they do. They have a niche practice because of their platform that people will pay for. You know,
Which
people
is-
value that, and they'll pay for that to have someone like that as their personal doctor.
right? Which we were talking about earlier is kind of like the downside too of rich people only get the right medical care, and everybody's got to stand in line. And
Yeah, when
be
you
treated
take
like
that Hippocratic oath,
Yeah.
you're supposed to treat everybody. You're supposed
Yeah.
just like hospitals. You can walk in with no insurance; they're still supposed to treat you. That's the right in a perfect world. That's the way medicine should be practiced.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world.
Yeah.
And the people with the money.
Where's your insurance card?
Where's your
You're not
insurance?
in
What's
network.
your- I saw it. I saw it when I worked at the hospital. Like patients would come in sick or ill, and they would tell them, you know, we ran your benefits. You have an HMO. You have to go here. We would have to turn them away, or they had to pay up front,
Yeah.
$200-300.
Private pay. Yeah.
A lot of people couldn't afford that, and then they ended up going to the county hospital
Yeah.
or the local health department. It's sad, but that's the reality we live in.
No, that's the scary part. I mean, that's I haven't needed medical care until maybe the last 5, 6, 7 years of my life, but I've made my money already.
It's easier for you.
So I can go there and I could just pop, just slide my credit card and I'll find some way to pay it. But if I needed medical care when I was in my 20s and a single dad of 3 kids, and by the way, pre-Obamacare, my health insurance was $150, $200 a month for myself and 3 kids. Cheap. And then Obamacare kicks in, boom, $1,000 on top of that, out of nowhere. And so it became like, okay, who's this really benefiting? And why am I having to pay another, 100x on my health insurance premium?
Private insurance is tough. Like a family of 5, a family of 4.
Yeah.
If you're getting PPO, it's $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
So imagine if you're working by yourself, you're making $40 to $60,000 a year. $24,000 is out the window just on health insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you still have a deductible.
It's a big
And you still have a deductible.
Yeah. With the $5,000 deductible.
Right. Or you're in an HMO, which limits to where you're going.
Yeah. Assembly line type of.
Yeah, the medical system. That's why when you see these presidential debates, the medical system is always a hot topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the Obamacare was a hot topic, and it still is. We still talk about it to this day.
Sure.
How many years? That changes the landscape, not just of the health, but people's finances.
Yeah.
Because
right.
that $2,000 a month. That's that might be the your kid going to like a summer camp, or it could be the vacation you guys were planning for. Now you're paying it for your vacation, for your insurance, and now you're saying no to your family for other things.
We just left a client. We flew in from Maryland last week. My wife and I went to go see a client in Maryland, D.C., prominent former politician. Staying in a very nice, prominent medical nursing community. Very, very good. But in addition to so they got to buy the condo that they're at to provide the medical facility. It's about a $1.2, $1.5 million condo. They got to buy that. And then on top of that, she's had to pay $96,000 a year to have home health care come in. So you have all these. So when people say, I'm going to be living less on, on my income when I'm going to be a lesser income tax bracket when I'm retired. She's at the highest. They're both at the highest income tax bracket because they're draining more money out of their 401k. Simultaneously, they have no deductions because they paid off their house. They're not in business, so they don't have any deductions. So all their income between their pension, 401k money that they had, it's all being clipped away with income tax. And we got to find different financial strategies to minimize that and still get the quality care that they're looking for. So it's a myth that I think a lot of people believe in, that they're going to live on less money when they're retired. So you got any thoughts here?
Actually, for both of you guys, and this is coming from like a daily input perspective, because obviously when you execute on the inputs, the outputs completely take care of themselves if you're actually focusing on what you need to take care on. So starting anything you have envisioned, right? Having a dream outcome or whatever you're trying to begin, it obviously takes a plan. Whether it's a daily and or monthly executions. So for anyone who's looking to make a major business decision to go into business for themselves, what advice would you guys give them? Whether it's, again, as you were speaking about, right, building a resilient team. If so, how? Applying mindfulness as a tool for innovation and growth in any business endeavor that you're doing, and also being able to navigate any challenges along the way, especially in a society that we live in now, staying healthy and also staying, aligned to your health and just being whole without falling apart along the way whenever you start off with any startup journey.
Yeah. I mean, number one, be ready for punches, to take punches, and be ready for it, be expecting it. Yeah. And then know that you're going to take more punches than you ever expected.
We're talking about like mental punches.
Yeah, mental. Yeah, not physical.
I'd rather take I'd rather take a physical punch than some of these entrepreneur punches, man. Some of these are low blows.
Yeah. So to go along with that in order to counter and mitigate against your ability to handle the punches and handle the stress of it, you have to put yourself and your employees first from a physical and brain health standpoint, in my opinion. Because if you're not healthy, if you don't have, you mentioned mindfulness, if you don't have a way to keep your brain health in check, it's going to be a long road. And that's probably through the experience of Soma, one of my biggest learnings, because I had all the pressures of my first startup, meaning one that I initiated. I've been a part of a bunch of startups, but I was always kind of padded along into the founding team. It's like that was my first effort myself, along with my co-founder. And you have all the pressures of the startup. And then I went live with my first 911 center, and I didn't sleep for 3 months. And my blood pressure was through the roof. I was just a physical mess. And, call up my doctor friend, call up.
Kind of cool to have that.
Yeah. Call up, what do I went and saw my doctor. My doctor wanted to put me on meds, blood pressure meds. She gave them to me, and I literally tossed them the next day, and I just doubled down on my health. I was always kind of like into fitness and stuff, doubled down on that, started mindfulness, started other practices like extended fasts, and really taking care of my health first, because I knew that the benefits of me being healthy would pay in dividends. So much so that I had such a good effect from that, I made it part of the company. I hired a health and wellness coach for the company.
Wow.
And made it a benefit that we paid for in the company. And I know that it paid for in spades.
Like HSA, funded by HSA?
No, we paid for it.
Oh, direct benefit.
Yeah, direct benefit we paid for. We had a health and wellness coach, and we gave optional one-on-one coaching to the whole company. Whoever wanted to partake, he did group coaching. He participated in group Slack channels and answering health and wellness questions. Nice. And it was, I knew we were performing better and with better brain health and better stress management. I was seeing the physical results of weight loss. That's an obvious one. And then, just anecdotally, it was everyone's favorite benefit.
Yeah. By the way, look at these gentlemen. If you ever notice things physically wise, these guys are in shape. They're busy. They run crazy schedules. These guys are rocking and rolling, man. These guys are distinguished gentlemen.
But from the sounds of it, when you're walking us through your story, it sounds like you didn't execute on this until you had a downfall in your health.
It's not that it was it was disproportionately a downfall in my health because I've never experienced stress like that before. And I was healthy, but I just doubled down on my health. And I went even, in my workouts, I picked up martial arts, started practicing jiu-jitsu, and never did a fast before in my life. I do 3-day fast once a month, water, coffee only.
Wow.
I started meditating. I thought it was stupid before I did it, but it helps. It helps you focus in the moment, helps you not get in a monkey mind of replaying all the mistakes that you made. You don't worry about all the potential possibilities of everything that can happen in the future. You just focus on the moment, and it's a good tool.
Yeah.
And it's important along with the physical health.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs deal a lot with anxiety.
Yeah.
Because there's so much pressures and stress and decisions you have to make of things that probably will never happen.
Yep.
It's like you're worrying about shit that, I'm like overthinking things.
Yeah. I mean, it has extended to my personal life too. Like if ever my kids or my wife is sick, like don't worry about what it could be until you're diagnosed with it.
I want to ask you both this too as well, because, we're all men, right? And I've been married and divorced too as well. How does having a wife, a life partner, how do you factor that into the overall happiness and sanctity? And because that's a relationship too as well. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and it gets crazy sometimes even with that relationship. Sometimes I'm in an argument with my business and my vendors and whatever I got going on at the company, and I come home to another argument. Then I'm not arguing with the kids. So I'm just wondering how that all factors in of having the right partner, because that to me has just been a godsend for me.
I think you mentioned it on your podcast once before, and I'm like, oh yeah, like you need the right woman in your life that supports you as an entrepreneur, because it will be as tough for her as it is tough for you. And my wife Angie has been great, all like through this whole journey, and she continues to support. And then it's nice. It's like having the kids to be exposed to that too.
Yeah.
Both my kids have little businesses. Yeah. And I work on it with them together.
I think your daughter sings too, so she'll sing the national anthem.
Yeah, she sings. She sang the national anthem. She's in competitive volleyball. All my kids are very active, both in sports, family, and even in business at young ages. So it's sort of a family culture that we've built around my goals.
I love it.
Which is it helps. You need that support.
Would you say there's a woman you're attracted to, you marry, and then sadly realize, okay, I got married for the wrong reason, or I was looking from a different lens, versus a marriage that you look in as a mature man?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about first marriage.
Yeah, me, because
I was young.
Yeah,
and you learn a lot. You learn a lot through your 20s, and you need that time to figure out who you are and what you want.
So you have an older daughter in her. We have the same
23.
age. Yeah, my daughter's about to be 23 in April. So would you say that there's a difference between raising a child when you're still on a startup phase versus raising children when you finally got some established finances?
Because you have more means to expose them to more. Enough to have go on nice vacations with my kids and give them different experiences. But it helps.
Yeah. To me, if I were to do it all over again, I would have waited. Yeah. Because there's so much unnecessary stress I went through, compounded over 17 years, just being a single dad, 3 kids, because I just didn't have a lens or a patience I was very haphazard. So lesson 101, if don't marry the first girl that you meet after a combat deployment at a club called Kokomo's.
Like the Beach Boys.
What would you add to that, Ted? Because you successful marriage.
Yeah. So that's back to like the company, like you guys said. Somebody told me when I first started, don't let the highs get too high, don't let the lows get too low. Yeah. Just like you said, you get punched a lot. Yeah. You can't. Things are going to happen, and only stress about the things you can control. Yeah. Easier said than done. Yeah. We all stress about everything, and then not let the highs get too high. We hit our goal, we made 10 grand, 100 grand, whatever. There's always more. Don't ever be satisfied. You got to keep going. Just take it all with a grain of salt, so to speak. As far as a lifestyle stability, it's more important in my field, in medicine in general. The divorce rate for doctors is super high. You have to have a spouse, and it could be the woman who's the physician, and and the spouse who's not in medicine is the man. Doesn't matter who it is. It's a very demanding profession. Mm-hmm. A lot of weekend calls, a lot of time on the phone, a lot of time coming home from work and doing charting and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of doctors that I know, they've all gotten divorced because they don't have a spouse or life partner that understands what they signed up for. They have to know in advance, hey, this is what it is. So I met my wife during residency. She saw that I was working 100 hours a week at Masonic downtown in Chicago.
Illinois Masonic?
Yes, that's
of
right.
Course.
So she saw that. So she knew, we got married 3 years after. She knew what she was getting into.
Yeah.
And I tell a lot of younger students that are becoming physicians that come and shadow me, and they ask me about stuff like that. I go, make sure that your life partner, fiance, girlfriend, whatever, understands what your life is going to be like.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't tolerate that. Mm-hmm. You don't have a traditional 9 to 5.
Yep.
You're working Saturday and Sunday. If you're an ER doc, you work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yep.
There's no weekend for you.
Yeah.
Hey, it's 5 p.m. Let's go drinking. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dinner dances. There's a lot of weekend functions that you're doing an ER shift. Hospitals don't close.
Yeah.
So you sometimes you're working third shift.
Mm-hmm.
You're an ICU doctor. You're working third shift. Now you're not sleeping in the same bed.
Yeah.
You're sleeping. She's going to work.
Yeah.
She's going to work. You're sleeping. Kids don't know what's going on. So there's a lot of you. Back to what you both said, it's very important to have somebody who understands and supports you, because the last thing you need when you're running a successful but a stressful business is more stress at home, more anxiety at home, coming home and dreading that drive home, knowing you have to deal with stuff.
Can I get a win today? So
and that's why a lot of guys get depressed. A lot of entrepreneurs get depressed. They get anxious, and that's why their health starts going out the window, because then they start eating. You gotta vent. So they start eating bad. They start drinking.
Yeah.
They start getting involved in other things that are detrimental to their health.
Yeah, because as a financial guy, we've seen clients in their 40s and 50s and 60s sadly get divorced, and the man has to start practically all over again, right? Because he picked the wrong, life partner to begin with, and that's on him, because he's judged for that decision, and then the wife takes half the stuff or takes the house, and they're just now living their life, and they're in their 40s and 50s too as well. So there's that stigma behind the reality too as well. But if you play your cards right, and you're as disciplined as we are as entrepreneurs, as disciplined as we are with a lot of decisions we got to make, we got to be disciplined in a personal life. Let me ask you a question. Remember, as guys, you hear about locker room talk, that other guys talking smack all the time about their escapades and those. What I realized when I started getting older, the more I heard that type of stuff and guys kissing and tell, those kiss and tell type of jokes, I started getting less and less attracted to those. Is that just me forgetting what it was like to be 20s and 30s, or is just the maturity of, I just don't want to hear that anymore because I'm not about that life. I don't know if that.
Because you don't see the purpose in it anymore.
Yeah.
You don't see what's the end result.
What's the point of
bragging
about it? Yeah.
If you've done it and experienced it, like most of us have in one way or another in our younger years, that's not what drives you anymore.
Right.
That doesn't give you that dopamine rush. That doesn't give you that excitement that it did, because you see the bigger picture.
Yep.
I just want to know. Sorry, go ahead.
That's a one-way ticket to nothing.
That's right.
I just want to know why Peter's smiling really, really hard right now as George is talking.
No, I'm smiling because it's true. I mean, you grow out of it, and you look back at it and be like, God, you know what? Those were good times, but like those were when I was in my 20s.
Would you say those times were for you guys are married, you guys have kids. I'm still a 32-year-old guy who's single trying to figure that out, right? So would you guys say that in order for you guys to understand that the one that you came in encounter with, to say, this is my wife, this is the woman that's going to be the mother of my kids, that you had to go through the experiences, or do you think you could have came across that woman and still had the same experience?
You have to go. In other words, you have to learn the hard way.
Literally the hard way, no pun intended. But
I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule on that. You can go through life being a saint and meet the right girl. You can go through life experiencing a lot and knowing and using those experiences, knowing that you met the right girl, and it's every experience is different.
What about these young cats in their early 20s having FOMO, just fear of missing out, of experiencing the life of you have a little extra cash, you're looking, go out, enjoy, meet people? What would you guys say when it comes down to that?
I mean, fear of missing out on what? I tell you this, the 14 years of me going to parties Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Greektown, Little Italy, River North, Wrigleyville, everywhere in Chicago. I mean, sometimes I'm afraid to go downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
But here's one thing I'm not afraid about going downtown Chicago. It's not like I was sleeping around left and right. So I can bring my wife and I can run to somebody from 10, 15, 20 years ago. Cool, good to go, because I wasn't about to get another girl pregnant.
Yeah.
Because I'd already been through that. But in terms of party life, I can't remember one good friend, bro. And you guys remember any party buddies?
I'm still friends with a lot of them.
But back to your point, Milton. You mentioned our advice to you is I wouldn't rush it. One thing I've noticed too is a lot of people, they reach a certain age and they're like, oh my God, I'm 40. It happens more to girls. I'm 40. I got to get married, and they'll just force it. And then they're miserable because they're like, my window's closing, and I only have a certain amount of years to where I can have a kid, I can have kids, family. So I would not force it. God will have its, when that moment's right, you'll know it, and you'll go through with it. But I wouldn't stress about it. I wouldn't worry about it. I would focus on yourself and your business, and everything else will come along at the right time.
It's great advice, man. I was 38 years old before I met Sheena.
38.
And she was 26.
I have 6 years.
Yeah, so
To get my shit together.
I was 35 when I met Angie.
There it is.
The prior marriage aside, I mean, I don't have any regrets of it because I am where I am today because of all the successes and failures I had in the past.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's funny, when I first met Sheena, I'm like, I was asking her questions because I was asking myself, all right, how old are you really? And why am I attracting, this woman in her life, in my life? So, and when I finally did mental math, found out she was 26. I'm like, okay, is this wrong? It's like, there's a 12-year gap, or in your case, a 9-year gap, right? But it's different when you're 25 and 15.
Yeah.
And there's no go. That's like illegal. or even 30 and 20. It's still kind of creepy. But when you're 35, 45, 40, 30, 45, 35, 45, 30, I don't know. Is there a hard, fast rule to that? Because it seems like the older you get, the less the age, no, I'm not saying 60 and 20, but it just seems the older you get, though, it just seems less and less the age factor, age gap.
It also depends on the person. I never consider age for me, because I always have taken care of myself and felt young, and I operate with a lot of energy in my work and at home. So I don't feel my age at all.
100%. Very good. Listen, Milton, I appreciate you bringing your buddies here. We've had a blast, man. I wish we had another hour or so.
There's still a lot to talk about and unwrap for sure.
Yeah. There's one video here I want to put on, because there's just been such a disgusting amount of talk about taxing the rich. Rich people need to do more in America, etc. Jordan, can we play that last clip about the billionaires? I
don't
want to
think
get you guys'
billionaires
reaction
should
on this.
exist. No one needs that much money. I think it's inhumane. Pick any city, walk around, you see people starving, people without basic necessities. There's no excuse for that. And it's not because people are lazy or don't want to work. The billionaires that keep amassing more and more wealth so they can build rocket ships and do whatever the hell they want to do, that does nothing for humanity.
Your critics say that's class warfare.
Yeah, class warfare has been going on in this country for the last 40 years. The billionaire class has been taking everything and leaving the working class with nothing.
So you welcome it. You want the war.
It's always, whenever working class people ever step up and say, this is wrong, we want it to stop, all of a sudden, it's class warfare, it's the end of the world.
Guys, it's not like you guys were born rich. You guys were in Palos Heights. You guys went to Marist High School. You went to University of Indians and Chinese. It's not like you went to Harvard or Stanford or whatever the case may be. What's your opinion on that perspective of the outlook of life?
You know what? I want to go back to something I said earlier, and being in the trenches with the people that I work with. I don't think there's a more connected way that you can deploy capital, being an entrepreneur and business person yourself. So meaning, if I had, look at Elon Musk, he made a ton of money off of PayPal, and he put it all back into the businesses because he has passion as an entrepreneur, and that has generated much more wealth through the companies that he started and much more impact through the companies that he started than the government taking that money and redistributing, because he's the one working with the people on the front lines in the trenches with the capital he's deploying. And I'm not a billionaire, but if I was, I'd be deploying my capital in the same way into businesses and working with people.
Jordan, can you look at my screen real quick? Can you show my screen? Speaking of that, I'm glad you did bring that up. Let's take a look at some of these brands that a lot of people recognize today because of Elon Musk. Yeah. You got Twitter, you got Tesla, LVMH, Bernard, he owns Tiffany, Dior, Sephora, Bulgari, Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy, Bezos, Amazon. These are all billionaires, guys. Larry Ellison, Oracle. I'm sure you're very familiar with in the software world. Oracle. Warren Buffett. Milton will take you later on to a place called Grandscape. This podcast used to be hosted at Grandscape before they started doing some construction, expanded. But that's 100 acres owned by, right here in Texas, by Warren Buffett. It's called the Colony area. Bill Gates, Microsoft, Zuck, Facebook, Meta. These are all billionaires deploying capital. What's your opinion on it?
Look at all these brands that all these people that hate on these people actually use every day. They're wearing Fruit of the Loom, using Instagram, going to Sephora and using Twitter. So it's easy to sit there and criticize, but they don't see the good and all the job opportunities that those things have created.
Right.
It's easy to sit back and waste your time and energy into criticizing and hating on it instead of sitting back and be like, look at all these things that I am using that I'm hating on, but they created this stuff. So why am I criticizing them for providing things that I enjoy, that I consume? Yeah.
It's funny. One time Elon Musk was criticized. I mean, he's such a billionaire. How come he doesn't help hunger, right? Jordan, how come he doesn't help hunger? And he asked on Twitter, so great, how much money would it take to solve world hunger? Somebody said 35 billion. He goes, great. Who do I write the check to? And they're like, well, what? So it's not necessarily the check. It's we're talking about recruiting people, right? It's the infrastructure to deploy the cash and capital. So who wants to take that job? If Elon Musk is willing to write a $35 billion check to solve world hunger all across the world, well, the work is plenty, but the workers are few.
And how do we know that money's going to go to the right place?
That's right.
There's always going to be someone who's going to snatch it
and
do something else with it.
Yeah.
And again, the people who criticize, they don't know what he gives, not just him in particular, what they're doing and donating without publicizing it.
Yeah, right.
There's, sometimes people have to be dead or they find out later, hey, this guy did this, this guy did that. Yep. A lot of people do things and don't want the publicity.
Speaking of medical school, there was a medical school. I don't have a clip. There's a medical school in New York. So the dean, she gets up in front of the students and says, hey, by the way, we just received a donation. I forgot, it was some investment in Berkshire Hathaway. I think it was Berkshire Hathaway investment, but sadly they passed away. But they donated $1 billion of that stock to the medical school. She goes, going forward, everybody that attends the school to become a doctor, your tuition is free.
That's sick.
Bingo.
Exactly.
We got to bring on to the next podcast. 100%. That's because somebody decided to become a billionaire. And how many more medical professionals who are student loan debt is not going to be there, and they can really be doctors now. And I think if you look at all the endowments, it's another conspiracy theory, another thought process, but if you look at all the endowments, you look at UIC endowment, you look at University of Chicago endowment, you look at Northwestern endowment, and these campuses are just getting fatter and fatter and fancier and fancier. If they just took some of the interest off those endowments they've collected over decades and generations just to pay down the student or the cost of going to college, how much less student loans will there be? How much more jobs you create?
It's a whole other podcast.
And if you know the college landscape now, the NIL,
of course,
where I've heard from some people, like some of these universities have paid these athletes through the boosters and the donors all these millions to these athletes because they're selfishly interested in the brand and this and that, but it's not going to the
student athlete. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Make sure you like. And if you watched this podcast to its entirety, to the very end, put the comment section, gotcha. And make sure I send you out a book from our podcast to your home. Top 5 people that do gotcha in the comment section. We'll send you a book here as a thank you for watching the 7 Figure Squad podcast. Any final thoughts?
As you said, there's still a lot to unpack and a lot to unravel. Part 2 is definitely needed. But as far as you guys, any final thoughts for our viewers?
No, thank you for having us. This was fun.
Thank you. This is great.
We could have continued
Appreciate
this, man.
this.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming down here.
Thank you.
1,000%.
Absolutely. Please come back next time around. That being said, guys, if you haven't done so already, we have both these gentlemen. We're going to have their Instagrams in the description of this YouTube video, so make sure you follow them too as well. Every Wednesday, we're here. Pneumonia, no pneumonia, we're here. The show must go on. We're going to do. There is no PTO when it comes to entrepreneurship. That being said, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. We got clips of these shows. Subscribe, like. Dallas, Texas, on behalf of Milton, Mr. Quintus, Dr. George, I'm your Money Smart guy. And until we meet again, continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today. See you next week.
3, 2.